All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. And thank you for joining our presentation on reducing Kubernetes complexity with Giant Swarm and Instana. Before I introduce our two speakers, I'd just like to let everyone know that we will be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please put it in the comments. We will try and address them, time permitting. Also, the webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you after. So, speaking today on behalf of Giant Swarm is Julian, who's a solution engineer. He has a background as a Java developer. He's found his way into the DevOps culture and works with Docker, Kubernetes, and all things containerized. He fell in love with Go and tries to bring as many people along as he can. Often you can find him sharing his passion with the Belgian tech community. So welcome, Julian, to the call.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And speaking today on behalf of Instana is Matthias. Matthias is the senior product manager for all things infrastructure with a heavy focus on cloud native. He has long-time experience in all aspects of software development, and his interests are around building easy to use yet powerful tools for development and operation teams. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Julian to begin the presentation today. Julian, take it away.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Maybe you can already switch to the first slides. Yep. So let's talk a bit about Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a really great platform that bring a lot of benefits to using it. First of all, it will increase your development speed because as you just have to deploy on your machine and then you can directly deploy that on the cluster, and the cluster creation can be just a second meters and doesn't take too long to be up. You can have quickly different kind of environments, so that means you can really deploy your application on different kind of environment with different team and so on. So it's really quick to be up to speed on Kubernetes. The great thing also is that it's consistent environment between your different environments. Dev, QA, and prod should be exactly the same, and then just moving one application from the other, it's exactly the same too. Third point is that currently a lot of supplier software are already coming in containerized way. So that means you just have to deploy it on the cluster itself and don't have to manage yourself the binaries and so on. The last 2 points is the flexibility that Kubernetes can offer to your teams, because as I said, you run it in a containerian machine that then you can deploy it on the dev, QA, and production. It's exactly the same way that you will deploy on both. So the automation is quite easy, part of it, easy to do, and then it offers a lot of flexibility when you have to change from the different environments. And last, it's the cost, that when you have done properly those Kubernetes and microservices architecture for you, it can definitely reduce the cost to use only the needed resources that you would need for your applications. Then the benefits, it's really great to see, but Kubernetes came with a lot of challenges too, because there is any magic behind. It's still infrastructure, and it still brings a lot of complexity on top of it. And here are the top 5 challenges that we identify at Giant Swarm when we start onboarding new customer on our platform. First is the cultural change, and that it's not related to Kubernetes itself, but it's more related to the new way of thinking when you start using those kind of clusters and containerized application, because you start giving more available stuff to your teams, and then there is a lot of stuff deployed at the same time, and the release process is difficult, so it will bring a lot of character and change there. The other thing is that it's lack of training, because now it's still a new technology kind of, and the learning curve, it's not that easy because you have to learn the tool and you have to learn how to use the tool. And that's both things that it's not really easy to manage. The third one is the complexity. Complexity, it's already something related to Kubernetes because as it's this platform for distributed system, it brings a lot of new concepts and a lot of components to manage yourself, like the network, like the infrastructure, like the storage, and so on. But when you have the cluster that it's currently running and you put your application on it, the last 2 points, the last 2 big challenges that you will face, it's first the security, because you will expose a lot of stuff on the internet or even inside, and you will deploy it quite easily and quickly. So you need to be really attentive of what it's secure or not on the cluster itself to be sure that nothing will be compromised. And the fifth thing is the monitoring. Monitoring is the most important part of the day 2 of your cluster management, because it's how do you detect and how fast you can detect when something is wrong on the cluster itself. So those are the 5 top challenges that we identify for the last few years that we work at Giant Swarm. And so Giant Swarm is a platform, cloud native platform that provides you some Kubernetes clusters, and we manage 24/7 the cluster for you, from the infrastructure to the monitoring, security, and release of everything. So the solution that we offer as Giant Swarm is we give you freedom to build the cloud native application that run your own business, and you don't have to think about where it's run, how it's run, and how to maintain in day 2 of the application itself. You just have to focus on what you really need to do. But then when you have this in place, comes another problem, because now all the cluster is completely monitored and secured and maintained and updated and so on. But now it's come to your application. How do you apply those kind of challenges to your application that it's kind of the same? And it's where Instana can help you. So now I will hand over to Matthias to go on to the next topic.
Yeah, hi everyone. So the challenges of running cloud native Kubernetes-based applications is big. There are many things that we see when we started approaching it ourselves, when we started talking to first customers, and when we started actually building Instana. When building cloud native applications, it's you pretty fast get into a topic where you see that applications are getting more and more complex, right? The dependencies that you see there, the number of dependencies, the types of dependencies in a microservice polyglot environment are really surfaced when running Kubernetes-based applications, because teams have the freedom and they use the freedom to do so. So applications being deployed, whether it's the initial greenfield application or an application that's been transferred and being further developed, are getting more and more complex. And the complexity with modern techniques are not staying constant. They're getting even more complex with every change, with every release that you're doing. And teams are suffering on that. Why are they suffering? So first of all, Kubernetes gives you a nice abstraction. It's an orchestration layer that gives you an abstraction on where and on how things are running on your cluster. But the honest truth is that in the beginning, but also throughout the course of your software development, is that you need a way of understanding where things are running. And that is not easy, right? Understanding the scheduler, understanding where things are running is not an easy thing. And it should be an abstraction, but at the same time, you need to know where things are running for certain use cases that are bound to specific hosts, specific type of infrastructure. But not only that, right? There's more visibility that it's lacking. The whole applications and services, so the logical part of what your software is made out of, is with the complexity of microservices, container-based application, and is so complex that you actually at some point have you don't even know who's talking to whom. What are my applications? Who is in charge of my application? So there's like, we see literally a total loss of visibility into the different types of applications and services. And at the fourth point, it is hard for teams to really make sure, to really understand how the relationships between my Kubernetes, my application, and the underlying infrastructure components are. And this could be, the host, this could be, the storage, the networking, different types of your infrastructure. How is that relating to the Kubernetes, and how is that relating to the infrastructure? Next, yeah. So these challenges that we see are very, very manifold, and here are a couple of examples that we see, when we are helping customers getting their services, their applications running on a Kubernetes cluster. So, the first question in these ever CI/CD development is like, what version is actually currently deployed of my application, of my different services? How is my application actually made out of these different services? How are these services, communicating to each other, right? How are the requests flowing between these different services? If you have a services deployment that has a certain set of replicas, are all of my desired replicas running? Is there currently something that is being restarted or redeployed? Do I have the desired state of my deployment? A very, very common question that you should need to ask yourself, and that you need to answer on a continuous basis. Is my deployment failing? My latest, or has it previously failed? Do I have a performance regression of my last deployment? Is there something that I need to look into? I'm seeing errors, but where are they coming from? Is there anything like my performance overall, right? Can I optimize a bit? So there's tons of challenges, tons of everyday examples that people are asking themselves, and with cloud native applications running on Kubernetes, we see them facing and increasing ever. And this is a start, right? We're going to see more. So we think from Instana's perspective, there's from an application point of view, there's actually a simple yet very needed answer to this, and this is that you need automatic application visibility and performance monitoring. So there's something that the environment and the development of applications is so complex that you need something in the background that automatically helps you in the application visibility and the monitoring of the overall application performance. And we do this by automatic continuous discovery of every services in your microservices world. We trace every request across all of your microservices, no sampling, no partial traces. And this is, especially important because, we need to ensure, or we want to ensure that you have all requests, even outliers, that are running through your system, through your software. We think it's really important that we, correlate the Kubernetes services to your logical services, so if my my business service is serving some request, how is that made of the Kubernetes entities? What are the Kubernetes services relating to that? and making sure that you understand the overall picture from the logical services over to the Kubernetes and all the way down to the infrastructure. We are making the model, we are constructing the model of your services and the infrastructure dependencies, and we visualize that in a very easy to understand way for different types of personas, developers, DevOps, ops people. So everyone has a good understanding, common understanding what the services are and what the underlying model and the dependencies are. And last but not least, immediate understanding of the performance impact of every change, of every release that you do within your software, within the application that you're building. These are, from our point of view, crucial on what you need regarding a monitoring solution for your applications. And this is something that we deliver from the Instana point of view. So when we bring these two worlds together and we join partnership with Giant Swarm, it was very, very clear from the beginning that there's two sides to the story, right? On the one hand, as you heard from Julien, there are many challenges with running running clusters, Kubernetes clusters in a secure and continuous fashion. And there is from our side, from the application point of view, there's many things needed that you need to get your insights into the to the applications that you're deploying onto your clusters. So we partnered up, Giant Swarm and Instana, we partnered up, and we saw that many different customer environments can be very complex. So we partnered up to create a technical integration, which Julien is going to show you in a second to get you easily started, but also partner on a support level, that when you work with Giant Swarm and Instana together, that you have seamless integration, that you have seamless handover of any questions, any problems, any issues you have, so that you have seamless and the best experience of running your applications on your Kubernetes clusters. So Julien, let us know how the integration works.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. So yes, here what you can see now, it's the user interface of Giant Swarm, where you can manage your cluster and your organization. And now we added a new thing that we call the manage catalog, the app catalog, where you can install directly via our UI some community Helm charts, or Helm, it's a package manager to install application directly on the cluster itself. And we integrate there some upstream community charts. And with the partnership with Instana, now you can install directly Instana agent onto your cluster directly via our UI. So that would mean for you, yeah, you can switch. Thank you. What this means for you is that you don't have even to think about how to bring Instana up on the cluster itself. We work with Instana to already prepare everything for you, and you just have with one click install the Instana agent on the cluster itself, and it's managed. So you don't have to take care about installation up to date and so on. Everything is done through the catalog itself. So yeah, so here is what I said. You can see here the different version used currently with the Instana agent, and with the click button configure and install, you can configure with your own configuration there and install it on the cluster itself. That means with that, you can directly on as many clusters as you have, install the Instana agent through the UI just by a click. So thanks to listening to us. I will really glad to partner with Instana and work on those kind of technology and bring you the more secure and the more monitor and the more visible cluster that you can have. And it will be a great platform now with those kind of utility. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you, Julian and Matthias, for the presentation. We did have a couple of questions come in via the chat. I did just want to remind everyone that if you do have a question, please feel free to submit it, and we'll be happy to get to as many of those as we can. So I'll go ahead and get started with a couple of these questions that already came through for you, Julian and Matthias. The first one actually is for Julian. Is the Giant Swarm platform able to run on bare metal Linux machines on-prem? And what are the requirements to the hardware?
So yes, we are providing the same service on cloud and on-prem, and we can run directly on bare metal or on virtualization on your side. The only thing is the only thing that we need some couple of VMs with proper resources on it. I don't have the exact value, but anyway, we can discuss that. And then we manage everything from the installation until the cluster creation on there. The great thing is that we are doing exactly the same for bare metal and cloud, so that means you will have exactly the same version if you decide, and it's what we've seen from many customers that we currently have, moving from the bare metal to the cloud for cost and management reason. You will have exactly the same version, so it will be really an easy step for you to walk from one to the other.
Perfect. Thank you, Julian. The next question actually is for Matthias. Matthias, can Instana work in a hybrid cloud model where the agents run on a cloud-based Kubernetes cluster and Instana's backend server runs on-prem?
Yeah, certainly. So the important piece to remember is that Instana, our Kubernetes integration is one of our many integrations, and we put a whole lot of effort on making sure that Instana provides you the insights that you need in a Kubernetes environment. That said, we also provide the environments and also provide the insights in many other environments, right? You don't have to run Kubernetes to get you the insights. We have an agent-based model, and as long as the agent, has the right to get the data, be it on-prem, be it on your host, be it in some cloud environment, be it on a Kubernetes cluster, be it on a Kubernetes cluster on-prem. As long as our agent, is able to get the information, we will provide you the insights. Regarding the backend, we both have a SaaS and an on-prem model. So if you have the requirements of running our backend on-prem, we're also able to provide that.
Thank you. All right, and the next question actually looks like you could probably both take a pass at it from your perspectives. What are typical problems you're seeing customers have when getting started with cloud native applications, and what are some recommendations you have for getting started?
You want to go first, Matthias?
Yeah, sure. I think there is, as big as software development is, as big as the problems is. So, I think the important piece to remember is, it's a young technology. There's many things moving. So, don't be shy. Reach out to partners like Giant Swarm and Instana, and reach out to the community to help you. So there's, don't be afraid of things. If I would, think about something, I think, the complexity is just, overwhelming in many pieces. So, think of how you want to handle the complexity, how you want to handle the different many moving parts. And especially if you are at the same time as you're moving to Kubernetes, if you're also moving to a CI/CD environment, right? There's more and more moving parts, and think about a strategy on how you handle this. And I think one thing that I find in generally in the past is besides the tools and the environments, like Giant Swarm and Instana, I think one thing is start manually, right? Bring up your first application, start, put your tip in the toes in the water with, just manually. But then make sure that with every step that you learn, with every step that you're comfortable with, start automating everything. There's a lot of people who are still using too many manual steps with kubectl. And I think if you are, whether it's a full-blown GitOps or, you have some intermediate steps, I think automating these parts is really crucial down the road. What is your take, Julian?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Matthias. And moreover, what we always see also is that when people came to us to change their way of working and move to Kubernetes, they always think with the big project, when the big project that is currently difficult to manage, and then they want to move it on Kubernetes because it's easy. And I would say that it's not, for me, the best strategy, because as much as just say, it brings a lot of new components, new technologies, and new way of working. And sometimes the benefits will come, but not as soon as you expect. And so starting with small pieces that you can test it manually, exactly what you said, Matthias, manually, and then automate it with small steps, and it will just bring more value to the companies directly, and then you can scale that to biggest project. Moreover, what I can also add, it's related to the previous question about the bare metal, and I already spoke a bit about that, is if you are on-prem, still investigate if you can move to cloud, because we see that it's easier for every customer that already changed from bare metal to cloud. It's really easier internally to manage the application and the culture change there than when it's on-prem, because it removes a lot of frustration and intermediate layers to the infrastructure and so on. And it's really easier to get up to speed, because it's really what we think with Kubernetes. It's getting our business running as soon as we can. So as soon as we can remove a lot of different pieces and layers, it's better. So yeah, that's all for the thing.
Perfect. Thank you both for that. Is Instana integrated with cloud-based container provision and orchestration services like AWS ECS?
Certainly. So as said before, wherever our agent has the insights, we will provide you the information. We put great effort into host level, Kubernetes level services, but also cloud-based services like AWS ECS or Google Cloud. It depends on the level of insight you get from the cloud vendors, but we're taking great steps there to provide you all the necessary insights that you need. The important piece is that Instana is based on distributed tracing. So we are tracing every call between every single entity. While if we are able to see these traces and provide you the traces, you will get the insights that you need and can correlate that to the cloud, to the infrastructure, to Kubernetes, whatever you need.
Perfect. And then also for you, Matthias, another question. Do I need to install the Instana agent once within a Kubernetes cluster? And how do I need to configure the agent to monitor all pods workloads within the cluster?
So our general theme is we think it's really, really important to make this as automatic as possible, right? I mean, if you're getting started with Kubernetes or not getting started, we just had the conversation the other day with a joint customer, and there was another technology, another thing that they were running and they had issues with. So, you know, we again partnered up with Instana, with Giant Swarm on making sure that they have all the insights they need on their cluster. There's you know, so many things that you can think of, and we really think it's important that Instana itself is as automatic as possible. So generally speaking, in Instana, you have a Helm chart that in Instana on Kubernetes, you have a Helm chart that you need to configure, but that is deploying on your cluster. And we take care in the background that we get all the information out of the individual hosts and out of the Kubernetes cluster itself. Again, with Giant Swarm, it's even easier, right? Because all this you know, installation is done automatically, and the Helm chart itself is, you know, managed by Giant Swarm. So it's a simple one click. So there's not much needed for the beginning. Obviously, you know, it's all technology, and there might be, you know, there are edge cases if you have, you know, a specific type of cluster. If you have a high density, you know, we need to tweak a little bit left and right, but that's something that is very, very easy and very visible, and we're very helpful and grateful in helping you that. And it's normally it's a matter of 2 or 3 configuration values, and it's very simple to adapt that to your case. So automatic as possible, and if needed, it can be configured.
Perfect. Where does the Instana agent send the logs of Kubernetes cluster?
So that depends on your setup, the recommended setup, and I wholeheartedly agree there with Julien. If you double think if you are not able to that you are able to use a cloud-based environment, while we both offer an on-prem version, double think your strategy there. But that depends on where how you set it up in a SaaS-based environment, right? We have different regions running, and depending on the region you prefer, and the data is sent there. We have all the security certifications that you can think of, and obviously if you're on-prem, the data is staying within your data center.
Can I configure applications in the Instana backend with the scope of one or more services, pods, workloads running in the Kubernetes cluster?
So that's something that we feel is a core value of what we have, and maybe you should look up at our website and look for application perspectives. Application perspectives allow you to basically create applications out of an arbitrary tag system. So what we do is we tag every single call that is running through your system, and what we do is making the best of our knowledge guess on what your services are. And in 80-90% of the cases, these are the right services that you should start looking into taking care of, and making sure they run smoothly. And we give you the service dependencies between these services. We give you, the required dashboards fitting for these technologies. Now, if you have a different set and you want to look at a different scope, also very easy. You can very easily, filter down all the individual calls, the individual traces to a specific type of service, to a specific technology, to a specific pod, or to a specific label, right? You want to only say, okay, I want to see all the calls for these type of pods and these labels, very, very simply. What you can also do is create an application perspective, and that's like our term of combining a couple of services together and putting your perspective on what you're looking to, and defining that. And you can basically do this by any means that Kubernetes gives you. Again, by any labels, by any pods. You can group a couple of pods together, a couple of services. You can, a couple of namespaces in one or two or clusters. So whatever you can think of, if there's a Kubernetes information, we are tagging every single call, and you can use that data again to slice and dice your views on what you're interested into. Now, this is what we see for many use cases. This is a pro use case, right? Normally, you're very interested in the basic services and the Kubernetes information together, and you sometimes want to dive into the details. But if you want to do that, you have the total freedom, and you can slice and dice and put your perspective, your application perspective to your Kubernetes data, however you like.
Perfect. Looks like we have just a couple more questions here. How does Instana's agent communicate with individual pods?
So that depends on where and how things are set up. So first of all, the Kubernetes basic information. So where are my deployments? Where are what are my services? What pods are running? We're basically querying the Kubernetes API, right? We're getting all the data out of Kubernetes, and that is done by a currently a single sensor, but it will be distributed throughout the cluster to distribute the workload by a couple of sensors, getting the data out of the Kubernetes cluster, storing that information, correlating that information with other information, and storing it in our backend. Now, I think what you're probably referring to is not only the pod. So let's say what the information of the pod itself is, but also about the workload running inside the pod. And here our agent is attaching to the specific workloads. So let's say it's a JVM. It attaches to the JVM. It reads all the necessary properties out of the JVM, out of the process, and displays that and correlates that to the pod. But it also ingests instrumentation into the Java code, so we can create the calls to this Java workload and create the traces that are running through this pod. And we do this for all sorts of types of languages. Obviously, for certain types of languages, you need to do some configuration or some adjustments. But we have a pretty good base level of automatic languages for things like Java and .NET. And for other languages, we have a semic or almost automatic instrumentation. So with very little effort, we can look inside your pod. We correlate that to the infrastructure information, and we correlate that to the Kubernetes information that we get out of the Kubernetes API.
Perfect. And then the last question that we had that's come in is, does Instana offer APIs to support integration of an enterprise application with the monitoring server?
Whoa. Okay, could you repeat the question and maybe help me with understanding it?
Let me repeat the question here. Does Instana offer APIs to support integration of an enterprise application with the monitoring server?
So I don't know what what an enterprise application is in general. So what I can say is that we provide many integration points. So foremost, we have an API. So all the data that we gather, and you want to use somewhere else. The typical use case is alerting, right? We have a couple of alerting integrations, but also if you want to get more data or you want to funnel that data to a different setup, a certain type of data, you can certainly do that. We have a very good and documented API. So from that point of view, we're very much integrated. We also support another important piece of integration is custom metrics. So if we don't support a certain technology, or you have your custom metrics, that it's your business metrics that you want to correlate to our data, you can also do that. And we support basically all custom metrics types. So I'm happy to learn more about the specific use cases. Obviously, the examples from enterprises are as many as there are enterprises. So I'm happy to learn about it, but I can tell you that we're working with many bigger and very big organizations, and we've been either we had a good integration, or we had the tools to build these integrations, or we were very fast in adding to this. So please reach out to me. I think the next slide actually has our Twitter and handles, and so you don't have to reach out by Twitter, also by email or anything. But please reach out to me to describe your concrete use cases, and I can answer you details on the specific integration.
Perfect. Yeah, and that was all the questions that we had. So I just wanted to thank both Julian and Matthias for your time today. As Matthias mentioned, their contact information is here on the slide if you have any other questions you'd like to follow up with them after the webinar. Also, just wanted to quickly let everyone know that the webinar today was recorded, so we will be sending that out to you afterwards. And with that, I hope everyone has a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.